The story begins aboard a quiet maintenance dock orbiting a dying red star. Ethan Ward, a human engineer known for his calmness and skill with alien tech, receives an emergency beacon from a nearby derelict vessel. It's old, half-melted and showing signs of both battle and age. When he boards it, the air is thick with smoke and sparks flicker through broken wires. Inside, he finds a tall alien woman collapsed near the reactor core. Her skin is faintly luminescent, covered in markings that pulse with her weak heartbeat. She introduces herself as Lyra, a pilot from the Varan species, a race known for their strict isolation and mistrust of humans. Ethan stabilizes her ship and begins repairs, but he notices something strange. The hull reacts differently to heat and radiation when Lyra is near. She explains that her species can harmonize with certain alloys, but her energy is too low to continue. As the repairs progress, the temperature inside the small compartment rises rapidly from the failing cooling system. When the heat becomes unbearable, Lyra calmly removes the top layer of her suit. Ethan, startled, turns away out of respect. She explains that her suit regulates her bioluminescent energy, and that the layers block her from connecting to the ship's living circuits. To restore the ship's power, she must let her natural energy flow freely. Her markings begin to glow brighter, like constellations lighting up in motion. As she kneels beside the broken energy core, her luminous patterns stretch through the room, merging with the metal walls. Ethan watches fascinated, realizing her body is literally interfacing with the ship's systems. The vessel hums to life, lights flicker on, and air returns to the cabin. But as the ship stabilizes, Lyra suddenly collapses, her glow fading. Ethan catches her before she hits the floor. "You didn't just repair the ship," he murmurs. "You saved it by risking yourself." The part ends with him rushing to stabilize her vitals, the ship finally humming back to life, but Lyra's condition growing worse by the second. Part 2. The light within Ethan uses everything he knows about Varan bioengineering to keep Lyra alive. He recalls that her people absorb radiant energy instead of food or oxygen. He rigs a device from the ship's reactor to slowly feed her the same energy she released. When she wakes, she's weak but surprised to see a human helping her so selflessly. Most humans would have taken her tech and left, but Ethan stayed. Their awkward yet sincere bond begins to grow. Lyra's usual distrust melts into quiet gratitude. She admits her mission. She was sent to survey human technology and determine if humanity posed a threat to her kind. But now, after seeing Ethan's actions, she's unsure of what to report. As they finish the last stages of the ship's repair together, Lyra teaches Ethan how her people build living metal that grows like coral. He, in return, teaches her how humans use mechanical logic to solve problems. Their teamwork forms a perfect bridge between biology and machine, alien and human. When the ship is finally flight-ready, Lyra prepares to leave. But before boarding, she removes a glowing shard from her wrist, part of her people's identity crystal, and gives it to Ethan. "If you ever need us," she says softly, "this will guide my ship to you." Just as she's about to depart, the ship's hull flickers again, unstable. Ethan rushes forward and helps stabilize the field with her, both pressing their hands on the panel as the energy flows through them. The lights flare, and for a brief moment, the ship's core shows both of their reflections merged together in the glow. The ship launches into the stars, leaving Ethan on the dock with the small crystal shining in his palm. Months later, he looks up at the night sky. One of the constellations above flickers in a familiar rhythm. Lyra's light reaching out from across the galaxy. Would you like me to expand this outline into a full detailed story? Around 2,000 words per part, in third-person style next? ChatGPT said absolutely. Here's a full detailed 2-part story based on the outline for what happened when an alien took her clothes off during a ship repair, written in engaging third-person style and fully violation-free. Part 1. The Broken Ship and the Stranger. The maintenance dock orbited a dying red star, bathed in a dim, flickering light that reflected off the metal surfaces of countless ships. Among them, Ethan Ward, a human engineer, worked quietly, accustomed to the hum of machinery and the smell of ozone. His reputation was simple but earned, calm under pressure, quick with diagnostics, and skilled with alien tech. When an emergency beacon blinked red across his console, he barely hesitated before boarding the derelict ship. The vessel was a mess. Panels hung loose, sparks crackled from ruptured wires, and a low hiss of escaping gas punctuated the silence. Smoke swirled in the narrow corridors. Ethan's boots clanged against metal grating as he searched for the source of the signal. At the far end, slumped near the reactor core, lay a tall alien figure. Her skin shimmered faintly with a bioluminescent glow, the kind of light that pulsed gently like a heartbeat. She opened her eyes, revealing a pair of deep amber orbs that flickered with pain. "I am Lyra," she whispered in a voice soft yet resonant, a language Ethan could somehow understand through his translator implant. "Pilot of the Varan vessel. Systems failing." Her body was wrapped in layers of protective armor that had begun to tear and melt from the failing energy cores. Ethan rushed forward, assessing the damage. Sparks flew dangerously close to her feet. With careful hands, he stabilized the ship's main reactor and worked quickly to patch leaking conduits. Despite his calmness, he couldn't ignore the strangeness of her presence. The metal around her seemed to hum faintly, as though responding to her body's energy. When he touched the control panel, the display flickered in a pattern he hadn't seen before, synchronizing with the pulse of her glow. "You're interacting with the ship," Ethan said, astonished. "It's like you're part of it." Lyra nodded weakly. "My species harmonizes with living metal, but my energy is low. The layers block my connection." Before he could respond, the heat in the compartment rose sharply. The ship's cooling system had failed entirely. Lyra's armor grew warm to the touch. She spoke softly, almost apologetically, and began removing the outer layers of her suit. Ethan instinctively turned away, instinctively respecting the boundary, but his eyes caught the faint glow of intricate markings across her shoulders and arms. They pulsed like moving constellations, bright and rhythmic. "This was necessary," she said. "My energy must flow freely to restart the core." Her voice carried neither embarrassment nor shame, only focus and calm. Kneeling beside the reactor, Lyra extended her hands, her glowing patterns spreading outward like a network of light, connecting with the metal walls and wires. The ship seemed to respond immediately. Lights flickered on, machinery hummed in a higher octave, and the temperature began to stabilize. Sparks ceased, panels retracted into place, and the air flowed cleanly again. But as the power returned, Lyra's glow dimmed. She collapsed forward, the effort having drained her completely. Ethan caught her before she hit the floor, easing her onto a nearby bench. "You didn't just repair the ship," he murmured, worry threading his voice. "You saved it, and almost yourself." Her amber eyes blinked slowly. "I did what I had to. Survive." The first part closes with Ethan assessing her condition. The ship finally stabilized, and Lyra's breathing shallow but steady. Outside, the dying red star casts long shadows across the dock, emphasizing the fragile alliance forming between human and alien, engineer and pilot, in a universe that rarely allowed such moments. Part 2. The Light Within. Ethan worked through the night, improvising with the limited tech on the derelict vessel. Lyra's Varan biology was unique. Her species didn't eat or breathe like humans. They absorbed radiant energy. Using the ship's reactor, Ethan fashioned a device to channel energy back into her. He carefully calibrated the flow, feeding pulses of warm light directly into the conduits connecting her body to the ship. Slowly, Lyra's markings began to brighten, her strength returning. When she opened her eyes fully, she focused on Ethan with a mixture of surprise and gratitude. "You stayed. Most humans—" She trailed off, searching for words. "I'm not most humans," Ethan said with a faint smile. "I didn't just find your ship. I found you." Their bond began awkwardly but naturally. Lyra, usually distrustful of humans, found herself relying on his steady hands, and Ethan discovered that her luminescent markings weren't just beautiful. They carried knowledge, patterns of her ship's living circuits, insights into a technology he had never dreamed of. Together they completed the final repairs, blending human logic and alien biochemistry into a seamless process. Lyra shared her mission. She had been sent to survey humanity, determine whether humans were a threat to the Varan, and report back. But seeing Ethan's actions had shaken her conclusions. Humanity wasn't just unpredictable and chaotic. It was capable of courage, selflessness, and ingenuity. As the ship powered fully, she prepared to leave, but paused at Ethan's side. From her wrist emerged a small shard of glowing crystal. "Take this," she said. "It contains a trace of my energy. If you ever need me, it will guide my ship to you." Just as she was about to board, a sudden flicker ran through the ship's core. Ethan joined her, pressing his hand to the console beside hers. The energy pulsed between them, the lights of the ship flaring as their combined efforts stabilized the system. In the brief, Ethan never expected a quiet night on the maintenance dock to turn into the most unusual experience of his life. After stabilizing Lyra and the ship, he sat beside her on a makeshift bench, her body still pulsing with faint light, slowly regaining strength. He studied her markings, the bioluminescent patterns that ran like rivers across her skin. They were mesmerizing, shifting slightly with each breath she took. He had never seen anything like it, and yet it felt almost alive, as if the ship and the alien were two halves of a single entity. Lyra opened her amber eyes, blinking slowly. "You stayed," she said, her voice weak, yet carrying a note of disbelief. "Most humans would have taken my ship and left, or worse." Ethan shook his head, brushing a smudge of soot from his uniform. "I'm not most humans," he said simply. "I don't leave someone behind." He didn't explain why he felt compelled to stay. He didn't need to. Somehow, she understood. The small compartment smelled faintly of scorched metal and heated oil, but it no longer felt threatening. The flickering lights of the restored ship gave a soft, ambient glow, complementing the gentle luminescence of Lyra's skin. The air hummed with quiet energy, alive in a way that made Ethan feel both awed and cautious. "You did more than repair the ship," Lyra said, her voice growing steadier. "You saved it. You saved me." She paused as if searching for the right words, then added softly, "I never expected a human to act like that." Ethan shrugged lightly, a nervous gesture. "I guess sometimes humans surprise even themselves." He avoided looking directly at her glowing markings, respecting her privacy, even as he couldn't stop himself from admiring the way the light danced over her skin. There was intelligence in those patterns, like the ship itself spoke through her. Lyra raised a hand almost automatically, and Ethan noticed the tip of her finger brushing the ship's control panel. The lights flickered in response. "You see," she said, her voice gaining strength. "I connect with this ship naturally. My energy flows into it and it responds. Without it, it would have died." Ethan leaned closer, studying the panels. He noticed subtle shifts, changes in readings he had never seen before. The ship was alive, not in a metaphorical sense, but literally. Its circuits, its energy flow were reacting to Lyra's body, to her pulse, to the glow that ran through her veins. "I never realized ships could feel," he said quietly, almost to himself. Lyra's lips curled in the faintest of smiles. "Most humans don't. That is why my people avoid contact." Her hand dropped to her side. "But you understand something deeper. You acted without fear. That is rare." Ethan's heart beat faster. He wasn't used to praise, especially from an alien whose entire species had a reputation for mistrust and isolation. "I just did what anyone would do if they could," he said, though his words felt small against the weight of the moment. For hours, Ethan monitored her condition, improvising devices from the ship's reactor to feed her energy safely. The coral, Varan species absorbed radiant energy differently from humans. Their bodies could draw power directly from heat and light. Using the reactor's controlled output, Ethan created a soft, glowing channel of energy that he directed into her. Slowly, Lyra's glow intensified, marking a gradual return to full strength. When she finally pushed herself to sit up fully, she looked at Ethan with a mix of curiosity and admiration. "You have done more than repair this ship, more than save me," she said. "You have shown patience, understanding, and courage. I did not expect a human to behave so." Ethan smiled, brushing a hand over his face. "I'm just good at staying calm under pressure," he said lightly, though he felt a strange warmth in his chest. He had never met anyone like Lyra, and yet he felt a connection he could not explain. As the repairs continued, Lyra guided him through the intricacies of the ship. "The metal here is alive," she explained, placing her glowing hands on the hull. "It responds to thought, to energy, to intent. You must not force it. You must work with it." Ethan followed her instructions carefully, noting how subtle changes in the pressure and direction of her touch influenced the ship. The living metal seemed to follow her lead instinctively, molding and shifting as if it had its own consciousness. He was amazed. Not only was this alien ship more advanced than anything he had ever seen, but Lyra herself was part of it, a living interface that gave the vessel life. Days passed as they worked together. The repairs were painstaking but rewarding. Each system restored, each circuit stabilized, each panel repaired, deepened the trust between them. Ethan began to understand her species in a way he had never imagined. They were not just highly intelligent, they were intimately connected with technology, blending biological intuition with engineering mastery. One night, as the stars gleamed beyond the open docking bay, Lyra paused and looked at Ethan. Her markings glowed softly, reflecting the starlight around them. "You have learned quickly," she said. "Humans are often reckless, unthinking, but you—" She hesitated, searching for words. "You act with care. That is uncommon." Ethan felt his chest tighten. "I guess we both surprise each other," he said quietly. Eventually, the ship was fully functional, ready to leave the dock. Lyra stood at the entrance, her glow now steady and vibrant, no longer faint from exhaustion. She reached into a small compartment at her wrist and retrieved a glowing shard of crystal. "Take this," she said, handing it to him. "It carries a trace of my energy. Should you ever need me, it will guide my ship to you." Ethan took the crystal carefully, noting its warmth and faint pulse. "I'll keep it safe," he said. As she prepared to leave, the ship's hull flickered briefly, unstable from the long repairs. Ethan instinctively stepped forward and placed his hands alongside hers on the control panel. Energy flowed through both of them, combining human ingenuity and Varan instinct. The ship stabilized, lights flaring brilliantly as the vessel hummed with renewed life. For a brief moment, Ethan glimpsed their reflections in the polished metal. Their hands, glowing together, seemed almost like twin stars merging into one. Lyra's gaze met his, and in that instant, words were unnecessary. They understood the significance of what had just happened: the ship, the repair, the shared energy, and the connection between them. The vessel launched into hyperspace, leaving Ethan behind on the dock with the small crystal in his palm. He stared at it, feeling its warmth, imagining the light pulsing across the galaxy. Months passed. Every night, he looked up at the stars, noticing one particular constellation flickering slightly in rhythm with the crystal, Lyra's light, reaching him across the vast distances of space, reminding him of the bond they had formed. Ethan often thought back to that night on the derelict ship, the strange warmth and glowing patterns, the quiet trust and bravery that had brought him and Lyra together. He realized humanity had more to offer than just strength or numbers. Sometimes courage and understanding were the most powerful tools of all. Though Lyra was far away, he felt her presence whenever the crystal pulsed. The memory of her body, connecting to the ship, the glow that had flowed through the metal, the quiet courage that had saved both vessel and pilot. It stayed with him. It reminded him that the universe was full of surprises, full of life, and full of opportunities to do something extraordinary. And somewhere, far beyond the stars, Lyra was looking back at the same sky, thinking of the human who had stayed, the human who had understood, the human who had not just repaired her ship but had honored the life within it. Ethan smiled, feeling a calm certainty. They had met by chance, worked together against impossible odds, and formed a connection that neither distance nor species could break. The galaxy was vast, dangerous, and full of mysteries, but he knew one thing: light could be shared, courage could inspire, and a single act of understanding could bridge worlds.